Hello everyone, today in Miss Gould's 5th grade class we will be learning how to solve word problems using division. The materials you will be able to use for this lesson are your math notebook, your pencil, and your multiplication tables. We'll begin by reviewing how we set up our division problem. We know that first we need to have our table drawn out. Then we know that we need to set up our number, so we have our number that we are going to be using to divide on the outside, the number that we are dividing on the inside. We then will look at and see if our number can go in to the first number that we are dividing. If it can't, we move on to the second. We will see if 25 can go into 25. We know that it can go in one time, so we'll place a 1 on top. We then take our number to our left, multiply it by the number on top, which would give us 25. We will then subtract our answer from that number that is inside of our equation. We will then bring down our 0. We know that 25 doesn't go into 0, so we can put a 0 on top, which gives us 10 to check our answer. We know that we can do 25 times 10, and that'll get us 250. Now we're going to move on to our first word problem. I'm going to read you the word problems, and then I would like you to pause the video, take a second to write them down, and then carry on. The Jesson farm has 113 Christmas trees, and they bought them for $1,251. How much did each Christmas tree cost for them to buy? First, we're going to set up our equation. We're going to think about what number will be on the outside, what number will be on the inside, and what are we ultimately trying to solve with this equation. Take a second to think about which numbers will be on the outside and inside, and then carry on with the video. So we know that 113 is what will be on the outside, 1,251 will be the number on the inside, and we are trying to see how much did each tree cost. So we're going to set up this equation. We are going to put our 113 on the outside, our 1,251 on the inside. We're going to check and see, can 113 go into the number 1? And we know that it can't. So we're going to move on and see if 113 can go into 12. We know that it cannot go into 12 either. Now we're going to check and see how many times can 113 go into 125. 113 can go into 125 one time. We will then do 113 times our 1, and we get 113. We are then going to subtract that number from 125. We will get 12. Then we will bring down our 1 from our 1's place to make it 121. We are then going to see how many times can 113 go into 121. So we know that 113 can only go into 121 one time. We will then subtract 113 from 121. Because 113 is being subtracted from 121, we're going to start in our 1's place. You cannot do 1 minus 3, so we're going to borrow from our 10's place, making our 1 place 11 and making our 10's place a 1. We will then continue with our subtraction. We will do 11 minus 3, which will get 8, and 1 minus 1 is 0, and 1 minus 1 is 0. Since we are not going to work with decimals today, we're going to put a remainder of 8 on our top line, so our answer will then become 11 with a remainder 8. For this specific problem, because it is asking you about a cost, I would like you to write your answer as the following. The Jessons bought each Christmas tree for approximately $11. Since we have a remainder, we know that it was probably a little more than $11, so $11 with some change, but for the sake of this problem, we're just going to write it as a remainder. Okay, now we're going to move on to our second word problem. I would like you to do the same thing we did in our first word problem by listening to me read the word problem and then taking a second to write it down. Miss Gould's school is hosting a Thanksgiving party. She decided to make the turkeys. One turkey feeds 15 people. The school has 486 people attending. How many turkeys will Miss Gould need to prepare? We're going to take the time to set up our equation. We will think about what number will be on the outside, what number will be on the inside, and what are we solving for. Take a second and pause this video to think about those answers on your own. So we know that 15 will be on the outside because one turkey will feed 15 people. We know that 486 people will be attending, so that number will go on the inside. And we are solving for how many turkeys Miss Gould will need to prepare. Now we are going to look into our second word problem and how we would set up our equation. We're going to start with 15 on the outside and 486 on the inside. We're going to see how many times 15 can go into the number 4, which we know it cannot. I'm going to give you a second to think about how many times the number 15 can go into 48. The correct answer is 3. We will then multiply 15 by 3 to get 45. We're going to subtract 45 from 48, which will give us 3. We're going to bring down the 6 from the ones place, placing it next to our 3 in the tens place, giving us 36. We are then going to think about how many times 15 can be divided into 36. Take a second to think of the answer on your own. The correct answer is 2. We will place 2 at the top of our equation next to our 3. We will then multiply 15 by 2, giving us 30, which we will subtract from 36. This will give us 6. We will place our remainder 6 at the top of our equation next to our answer, 32. Your answer then becomes 32 remainder 6. When we write this at the end of our problem, we will write, Miss Gould will need to bring 33 turkeys to dinner. We're rounding up to 33 because we need enough food to feed everyone at the dinner. So any remainders in those type of word problems make you round up your final answer. I'll move on to our third and final word problem. After I read the problem, please copy it down into your notebook. The Iowa City Hospital has 38 trees to put up. They have 1,824 ornaments for their trees. How many ornaments can they put on each tree? Now let's take a second to set up our equation. We will think about what number will go on the outside, what number will go on the inside, and what are we solving for. Take a second to answer these questions on your own. The number that will go on the outside is 38. The number that will go on the inside is 1,824. And we're solving to see how many ornaments can go on each tree. We are now going to work through our final word problem. We will start by setting up our equation. We know that 38 goes on the outside and 1,824 will go on the inside. We will see if 38 goes into 1, which we know it does not, so we will move on to our next place value. We will see if 38 goes into 18. It does not because we know that 38 is greater than 18. Moving on to our next place value, we will see how many times does 38 go into 182. Use guess and check or repeated addition to figure out how many times 38 goes into 82. Pause this video and then check your answer when you're done. If you got 4, you are correct. 38 times 4 will give us 152. We will then subtract 152 from 182, giving us 30. Our next step will be to bring down the 4 from the ones place, making our new number 304. Take a second on your own to figure out how many times 38 goes into 304. You may use repeated addition or guess and check again to find this answer. If you got 8, that is the correct answer. You would know that 38 times 8 will give you 304. We will then subtract 304 from 304, and that will give us 0. Take a second to pause this video and write the answer in the way that you think it should be written. The correct way to write our answer will be, each tree will be able to have 48 ornaments on it. Attached to this slide is a Google form. Please complete this so I can see your understanding of the lesson.